Welcome to the Ketovangelist Kitchen. I'm Brian.
And I'm Carrie.
And this podcast is dedicated to making things simple and easy for you in the kitchen. Carrie Brown is a classically trained, world-class chef who has a passion for creating ketogenic recipes that taste better than anything you've ever experienced. But more than that, she loves teaching people how to cook the right way.
And each week on this podcast, Brian and I discuss all the ways you can create awesome keto food that is guaranteed to make you a rock star in the kitchen.
If you'd like to learn more about Ketovangelist Kitchen, you can go to KetoVangelistKitchen.com and sign up for the newsletter.
In exchange for your email address, you'll get brand new recipes delivered to your inbox, ready for you to whip up in the kitchen and enjoy with your friends and family.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and learn. You're about to enter the Ketovangelist Kitchen. All right, I have two things. First, are we all drinking coffee right now? Or is it just me?
It's just you.
It's just you.
Damn it. Okay. Second thing is we're changing it up today. It's going to be hang on, I have to do this right off the bat. Here we go. Hang on. It's Motivation Maura. This episode is Motivation Maura. It's not going to be a Motivation Monday. It's going to be all Maura all the time. Hey, Carrie, we have a guest. And guess what her name is?
We do.
Her name is Vanessa. No? All right. In case you haven't. Do you think anyone doesn't know who Maura is by any chance?
Well, might be a good time for me to confess that I've only ever pronounced people who spell their name the same. In England, it would be Maura. And every time I go to say Maura, I almost say Maura and have to stop myself. Sometimes it's after I've started the M part. So if I call you something in the middle of all this, Maura, I'm sorry.
It's totally fine.
Habits break. Old habits take time to break.
I always get confused, and I always call her McGillicuddy. Just because that's how it sounds. That's how it looks to me.
Well, but actually, maybe we should just call her Maura because I'm Connie and you're Byron. So this could be Connie, Byron, and Maura.
Mitzi, Connie, Byron, and Mitzi. Yeah. Oh no. So when I was a kid, did you get? I'm really okay. So Maura will have no idea what I'm talking about. Carrie will have no idea what I'm talking about. And both of them for two different reasons. There was a show on television called Night Court. No. Thank you for validating my assumption, Maura. And it was one of the funniest shows I ever saw as a kid. Of course, I'm like 10 at the time. And it was literally about court that takes place at night, and the public defender was played by a lady whose name was Marnie Cook. That was her name, and I had such a crush on her when I was a kid. So I was going to suggest we use Marnie, but I don't want to sully my childhood memories by doing that. So, hey, what are we actually going to be talking about today? Instead of me insulting everyone, because I can do that. I'm good at it, but I'm assuming that's not going to make good radio. Although
Maura is going to be talking about kids and keto because I don't know anything about that really, because I've never had any. I've never had to raise small humans. So it's not something I'm very well versed in.
I have, but I'm really bad at it. So I can tell you what not to do. Generally speaking, they're not as flammable as you think they are. No. So there's that.
They're pretty resilient.
But also, Brian,
amazing.
You went keto when your children were older.
Yes.
And Mauras are very small humans. So, and I think that's possibly where there's a bigger struggle.
Okay, so
maybe I'm wrong. Maybe older children are harder to wrangle, but it feels to me like maybe the smaller ones are. But Maura can help us with that.
Okay, so where do we want to start then?
I think that Maura actually is going to blow our minds by telling us about pre-children, telling us about things to think about if you're pregnant and planning or hoping to keep your family keto.
Okay, I love it. So I should start there. Hi, everyone. Pregnancy. Hello. Yeah. So nutrition starts before pregnancy for the mother, but for the child and the development of taste and flavors, they've actually done studies on this, and what you eat will affect the embryonic fluid and how it tastes to the fetus. So the same occurs with breastfeeding, which we'll get into that, but it's very important to have good nutrition when you're pregnant, and to eat a variety of foods. And, if you just think about it in different societies, I mean, it makes perfect sense, especially with let's say an Indian culture where their flavors are very strong, like curry and all of this. The children do grow up to eat that. It's almost like it's in our genetic code almost. Danny and I were kind of talking about this. So I'm kind of curious to get my DNA results, because it would be interesting to find out how that can affect.
Do you think that the DNA,
way we eat,
the DNA results will come back with like a scratch and sniff thing?
That would be amazing.
Yeah, to really, really put it home. This is the stuff this is the stuff that you really should be tasting.
Yeah. And that would be amazing. Okay. That could be an awesome advancement.
I'm saying
maybe Desmond, we could get him to invent that or something.
I'm saying it's money in the bank. That's what that is. That's money in the bank.
Yep. I love it.
So, Maura, are you suggesting, or does the research show that if you are a picky eater and you're a picky eater through pregnancy, you're likely to birth picky eaters?
I think that's possible. I can't say 100% sure. I haven't read any studies specifically on that.
I have, actually. I actually have.
Have you? Yeah. That would be, I would love to hear about that. I wouldn't be surprised.
Part of the nutrition program that I was in, one of the things we had to do was study some of those things. And there's no conclusive biological or genetic proof that a picky eater births a picky eater. There is, however, environmental evidence that a picky eater raises a picky eater.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
However, there is also no conclusive evidence that a particular parenting style dictates a picky eater. In other words, what I mean is, if you're a dictator, doesn't mean you're going to have a picky eater. If you're just totally laid back, doesn't mean you're not going to have a picky eater. So it's really up to the personality of the kid. Is really how it comes. And I am done talking. I'm done talking. Go ahead.
No, I totally agree with that. However, there are certain things that I've seen in my own children that, things that I may have really, with pregnancy, a lot of times you kind of obsess about certain foods. You have random cravings. I didn't have any weird cravings, but let's say with Dean, I used to just love eating celery with blue cheese. That was my jam.
Yeah. And
he likes celery, and Desmond does not. And I find that kind of the case with certain things that I would eat during pregnancy. So there's that, but I don't doubt that a picky eater, that totally makes sense. Just I've seen it within friends,
Sure.
friends that are picky, their children also happen to be picky, and who knows, it could just be also just the lack of options growing up and stuff. But so pregnancy, super important. Also, just not for the taste, but for the nutrition. So you want to be, keto, or even I would suggest Weston A. Price minus the grains. They kind of do the soaked grains and stuff like that. I would eliminate that totally, but I would maybe incorporate, the fermented cod liver oil that they suggest, the amount of fish that you should eat certain time, at least 2 to 3 times a week for the DHA. And they do suggest raw dairy and stuff, and that could be optional depending on, your case to case. But really, it's all whole foods, pretty much high fat, low carb, whole real foods. And so that's super important. And so once the baby comes out, I can't express how important it is to breastfeed. I understand that it is very difficult, but welcome to having a kid. It's hard.
Right.
So,
and it doesn't get easier.
Yes, it doesn't get any easier. This is the first challenge, and it is a challenge for a lot of women. And honestly, I don't even blame the women so much, because the education that suppose it is not really truly educating, but they don't educate new moms properly in the hospital when they have their babies. They send them home. They send you home with a backpack full of formula. Right. So they give you a different option. By the way, the first ingredient in formula is corn syrup solids.
Right.
And it has soy, and it's just full of total crap. And then it's fortified with, vitamins, and it's, we're learning now that fortified vitamins can actually do the opposite and cause deficiencies. So especially with Bs, and if you have the MTFHR mutation, inability to methylate B vitamins, you can actually, by taking folic acid, make yourself even more deficient. That's something I just recently learned, which I thought was interesting. But so breastfeeding, they have done studies on this, and what you eat directly affects the taste of your breast milk. They did studies with like strong taste, like mint, licorice, or sweet, like maple. And there was a significant change in the taste of the breast milk. So I think this is super important. You need to be eating a variety of foods, or however you would like for your child to eat. I'm hoping that it's, ketogenic or paleo or something like that, a low carb, high fat diet, whole food based. This is going to really get your child's palate ready to, enjoy these foods later on. Formula, I tried it out of curiosity because I really, really wanted to know how it tasted. And it tasted like iron. That's literally what it tasted like. It tasted like sugary, slim fast iron. Yeah, it's not good. That's what it tasted like. It was pretty horrible. And then, you're getting the same formula every day. So you're not really getting a variety of taste. You're drinking the same stuff every day and it tastes the same. Unlike breast milk, which is adapting to what your mom is eating, and your palate is starting to experience all these new and different flavors. So I think that's really, really important. I really, really think that women should breastfeed for at least 6 months.
Is anyone else troubled by the experimentation of seeing the flavor of breast milk like that? Is anyone else like off put by I don't know. Is it just me? Like, is there like a tap? Like it's just like a in a pub and you just go.
I know. I wonder how they did that study. Like who tasted it, right? Like who was doing the taste test? Yeah. Probably Danny, because he always wanted breast milk. He was always like, put that in my protein.
This is delicious.
He's like, let me get some of that. That's good stuff. Yes.
You know what? It's already.
We've gone there.
It's 4 a.m. and I haven't had my colostrum today. So
he hasn't had a colostrum. Yes. He literally has made me put it in shakes. He's like, okay, that's the good stuff.
So you make an excellent point. Formula. It's look. Here's and people will say that I'm not female, so I don't get to say anything about this. But I'd say shut up.
It's okay. You can say whatever you want.
All right. The breastfeeding should be the primary option. Not everyone is capable of doing it. Not everyone has the ability. Education is really, really poor, right. Especially in rural areas, especially in low income areas, where they're the ones that need it the most. But for some reason, it's the smallest amount of education. The smallest population is actually breastfeeding. So that's the primary. But however, the reason that formula is there is because it does in fact keep your baby alive. It's just not the best option, right?
It's not the best option. Yeah.
So there's a lot of there's a lot of mother's guilt. Like, as soon as you have a baby, you're almost feeling guilty for everything, right?
Yeah,
and that's just the way it is. And we're not trying to make anyone feel guilty about anything at all. Like that's not the point. What we're saying is, ideally, this is what you would like. And if you're in a situation where you can make that choice right now, the preferred choice, the best thing, hands down, for your baby is to breastfeed. Is all we're saying, right? We're not saying you're a bad person if you don't. No. You're a horrible person for other things, just not that.
Just not that, yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to caveat that and make sure.
And I agree with that. We're not judging anyone, but we're just trying to get this education out into the world, because that's the truth, is that we aren't educated. For example, I was told in the hospital that 15 minutes on each side would be sufficient. And so, of course, I'm feeling, when I got sent home and Desmond has been latched on for 3 hours straight,
right?
I'm thinking there's either something wrong with my kid, that I'm not producing enough breast milk,
right?
Or that something is wrong because nobody told me that this was normal and that it was called cluster feeding. Thankfully, we had the internet at that time. So I was on the internet at 3 a.m. and like on La Leche League International on the forums. And it just makes you feel better just knowing that it is normal and that other moms go through this, and you're like, okay, I can get through this. But when you don't know, it really does something like to the mentality. Like you really think there's something wrong and that you should be supplementing because your baby's obviously not satisfied, but that's not the truth.
And one thing I think that is an outcropping of this that may not be addressed enough is that guilt that you have as a mom because of stuff like that gets transferred in one way or to another to your kid about food. Like they had that, it's the first like level of developing food issues for your kid. And so it's really important that, again, just try to do it the way nature wants to do it. Best way possible, do your best job, be the best parent you can be. It is what it is. But
I do think that, not being a mother, the marketing of the formulas would lead someone to believe that it's as good as or better than breast milk.
Yeah, well, they'll tell you straight up. They'll tell you straight up in the hospital.
Right. And they send you home with it. Mm-hmm. So I think there's good reason to make sure people understand that it is the secondary option, not the primary option, which is what the marketing will tell you.
Absolutely. And even if you have to do both, like let's say I was lucky, I was able to stay home and just nurse on demand, which was, it's hard at first. It's once you get through those initial 2 weeks of, adapting and the pain that's involved and, the baby's going through a learning process, mom's going through a learning process. Like you both have to learn how to nurse. A baby doesn't just come out and know how to nurse. They have to learn. Some babies have things like tongue tie that hold them back. But there's a really good community, and on La Leche League International, if you go on that website, you can find a group locally pretty much anywhere. And, people, it's free. You can go and get some help. Because sometimes you just need someone to teach you how to do it, and that way you can feel comfortable nursing. And so, but I was lucky to be home. I understand that some moms have to go back to work. And I got to be honest, I don't know that I could have done it if I would have had to pump, because pumping is not nursing. Pumping is horrible. It's horrible. Right. It is horrible. You literally feel like a cow, just like being milked, and it doesn't feel the same. It hurts. It's just, and I know moms that did it, man, and kudos to them, because that is intense. And it's also harder because there's a lot of reactions between the body, the baby's saliva, reacting with the breast does something to produce the milk. So when an artificial pump is you're pumping, you never pump as much as what your baby's getting straight from the breast. Like you always pump, like it's so much less than what your baby would extract, because it's just not the same mechanism. It's just not, it's really hard to recreate that perfect, nursing that the baby does. But even if you have to supplement with formula, there's options. And maybe I can send you guys the link. Maybe you could put it in the show notes. Sure. For a really good homemade formula option. It's going to take a bit to get those ingredients together, and it's very involved because it is very hard to duplicate this perfect, recipe. But there's other ways around it. I'm hoping, I haven't really looked into it, but I'm hoping that there are other brands, maybe in Whole Foods. Like just do your research, read your labels, and, use either like goat's milk or raw cow's milk if you have to. Just try to find something other than corn syrup solids and soy to get into your baby. There's other recipes that, you can use that are online now too.
So the mother of my godchildren, she had, and I don't remember which one, she has twin girls and a little boy. And I think it was with one of the twins, she could not nurse. Yeah. And so she actually, I helped her search, and she is now using a brand that comes from Germany. She doesn't have it shipped from Germany. It's available here, which was the fine. So I will also post the link to that in case anyone is interested in that, if they're in a situation where they can't nurse.
Right. And just so that there's better options. And I think just like we do by protesting with our money, I think new moms should too. And you might have to pay the price at first. Because it is going to be so much more expensive. So that is an issue I can see that being an issue in the low income families. But if the mother's home and they're not working, it really is it's free. It's the cheapest way. It's free. Right. And, it's really ends up kind of being way easier than bottle feeding. It's just so much easier. You don't have to pack anything when you leave the house. You just go, your baby, you have the food with you. It's super convenient. So if you could stick it through those first, few weeks and not supplement and not pump during those first weeks, because you're really just messing up those cues, and those first few weeks really set up your total supply And so we don't, I think mothers are turning to the formula too soon. And that really goes with like sending them home with the formula. It's just like that option. You have that option. And so, at 3 a.m, your willpower is not good. You're in pain. You just gave birth and it's 3 a.m. and you're not sleeping. And, you're already, it's like you can almost not even blame mothers. It's just like you're already in such a deprived situation. Your willpower is going to be lower and you might give into that, instead of just sticking it through. So I just think we need better education in general for the moms.
So if someone, well, obviously our listeners are keto, if someone is currently breastfeeding or is pregnant or hoping to get pregnant and planning to breastfeed, are there any foods within the realms of keto, are there any foods that you would really encourage them to add specifically, to like go out of their way to, make sure you eat salmon? Or are there any foods that you are aware of that are especially good for mothers and nursing babies?
Yes, I always recommend, and we'll put this, I'll give you guys this link as well, but whenever anyone asks me about pregnancy or nursing, I always send them the Weston A. Price Diet for Nursing and Pregnant Mothers. And it's pretty much, grass-fed meats, so grass-fed beef. They do suggest organs a few times a week to get that nutrient density. There's ways to hide it in your food if you don't like it. We're trying some recipes out, and this is where you got to get creative in the kitchen to get that food into you if you don't like it. Salmon is also recommended at wild caught at least 2 to 3 times a week. Taking fermented cod liver oil, definitely some folate, methylfolate, not folic acid that we see on the shelf. So make sure you get some quality folate, and DHA. So from the fish, and also supplementing. So it's very important, especially in the first, in the womb, and then those first 2 years, to get those DHA levels into the brain, because, I'm pretty sure I just saw it on like Dr. Georgia Eads' last presentation on mental health. She did say something about how it's really hard to make up for that after they're 2 years old. So it's really hard to kind of restore whatever damage has been done from not getting proper DHA to the brain. Like our brains are pretty much 20 or 25%. I can't remember specifically, but it's 20 or 25% DHA, super important for babies' brain development. And we're seeing now, in autistic children, they have significantly lower levels of DHA. So all these things kind of matter. They play into, the way that we eat nowadays. It's almost like we are creating these issues because we're so malnourished.
And I want to make sure we're not, this isn't like fearful. Like we're not trying to create fear.
No, your kid's not going to,
right.
have, if you don't eat fish.
Right. At the same time, we want to make sure we're also clear about what we're saying is, if you're in that situation, you can easily fix it. I want to point out, Professor Noakes, Professor Tim Noakes, he comments all over the place about how for the first 2 years of life, or at least 18 months to 2 years of life, a baby is essentially the life support system for the brain. Like that's the whole entire function of a baby is just neural development for the first 2 years of life. The brain is 80% fat and cholesterol. So you want to help have big-brained, well-functioning babies eat keto. I mean, that's just
absolutely
that's just clear,
high fat. Yes, high fat,
not the carbs, high fat. So anyway, all right. So let's say if it's safe to move on. Let's say that we've gotten past the bottle feeding point, and now we're at the terrible twos, and
we're ready to eat.
And God has made them cute so that you don't kill them.
Exactly.
And now what?
Okay.
But what do you start with, Maura? I'm gonna from breast milk or formula or whatever your thing is that you're doing. What's the first thing you start with?
Okay, so I always tell, and this is what food before 1 is for fun. That's how it is. So your baby could totally survive on just breast milk alone for the first year. However, we do start to introduce foods. I wouldn't do it any earlier than 6 months just because of the enzymes that are required. Ali Miller did a really good podcast about this and feeding your toddlers. But we did with both Desmond and Dean. So when Desmond was born, we were paleo. So high fat. I was already all about the fats. I knew I was going to give him a super high fat diet, quality. And we did something called baby-led weaning. Desmond was ready right away. So there's different cues that your baby will give you. Like they'll show interest in mealtime. They'll start reaching for your food, looking at it, or, you can tell that your baby is interested. Dean, however, did not show any interest until about 8 or 9 months, even though I still offered it to him. So I would still offer him food at 6 months. And he would play with it, and that's okay. Even just playing with it, even if it's not that much makes it into their mouth, it's still creating and starting those digestive processes. So they're still starting to get that the enzymes going, and it's still setting them up. So you got to let them play with their food. And this is where something called baby-led weaning comes into play. And this is how I suggest starting off your kids with food. So what does this mean? It's no mush, because that's another thing we do. We start with mush and we give them mush. All food's mushed up. So we're pureeing meats, we're pureeing everything for these kids. So not only does that interfere with their ability to stand textures later on, I've seen a lot of children later on have like texture aversions. And I think that could be to blame. I don't know, this hasn't, maybe it's been studied, but I've seen that in other children from, friends or that I've seen. It's just when they're always eating mush, the second they get anything with texture, it's like they're gagging because they're not used to it. So the whole premise with baby-led weaning is you're feeding your child what you eat. So hopefully you're keto and hopefully you're eating a high-fat diet. And so first foods that I would start with are avocado is a great food. Some avocado. Some soft-boiled egg yolk, not the whites. We don't want to give whites to babies before 1. And this might sound gross to people, but I don't really care. But we would give Desmond soft-boiled egg yolk with a little bit of grass-fed liver. We wouldn't even cook it. It was raw. So, but it was grass-fed, and we, only do that if you're getting it from a trusted source. And he would. So
if you used it raw, Maura, what did you do with it? Did you literally did you mush that up? Did you just put it in tiny slices, or how did you?
Yeah, it wasn't much. It wasn't much. So what we would do, I would soft boil the egg yolk. Soft boil the egg, and then just take out the egg yolk, and then mix that yolk with like the liver. It's going to be soft when it's raw. When it's cooked, it gets hard. So really, just very little. I didn't put that much, but
just tiny
little pieces mixed up there. They won't even taste it, and they eat that. It's so good for them to get that iron. And this kind of mimics, I think, what they do. Like a lot of moms in Africa, I think they do this to get their babies nutrition. So avocados, egg yolks, and maybe raw liver. And if you want to cook it because you don't feel comfortable, then do so. But
I'm curious. Will Desmond eat liver now?
Yeah, he actually likes heart, and he's more prone to eating that stuff. Dean, we tried the same thing with Dean, but Dean was more sensitive and he had a reaction to the eggs. So we had to stop. We didn't give him any egg yolk. So he was doing more like avocados and some greens at the time, like leafy greens and things like that, like just some veggies with butter, cooked in butter, of course. That's what we did. But you're not mushing the food. And a lot of moms are just terrified because this is what we do now. We're just scaring everyone half to death. Your kid's going to die. Like we have all these things now, there's like these monitors now where you're basically monitoring your healthy baby the way that they do in a NICU. Like they have this, they sell this now. And so you're like getting your kid's vitals like in the middle of the night. And it's just like this insanity. So it just goes with like everyone think your kid's going to choke. They're not going to choke. You cut their food into like, everything is kind of like in French fry shape. So you cut it in like long, so either shredded chicken, if it's a vegetable, you cut it into like long strips so that they can grab it and they go practicing grabbing the edge and they kind of gnaw on it with the other, like when it's sticking out. So that's the whole premise with baby-led weaning. So babies are eating what we're eating. We're not mushing it up for them. And then they feed themselves. So there's no overfeeding your child. I can't, Ali Miller was talking about this too. And it aggravates me too when you're just like seeing a mom like trying to shove like spoonfuls of mush to their baby and the baby's like, like they're trying to tell you that something, they're not hungry anymore. And this is just easily avoided when they feed themselves. And it's easier. You don't have to, your child is becoming self-sufficient. They're more independent and they, it's just it's just so much better. I love it. I love it. And they really do experiment with more foods that way when they're not being forced, like mom's not feeding them. So that's what I suggest for how to start them. We did introduce meats around 8 to 9 months. Besides the raw liver, we would start to so little by little, I would just keep introducing foods. You always want to wait a few days to make sure they're not having any type of reaction to the food. No nuts or anything before maybe at least 18 months.
Why?
Well, it used to be 1 year. They've recently changed the recommendation to 2 years. And I don't know. I just think it's because all these kids have allergies now. I don't know what's up with that. I don't know why that actually happens. But I mean, just thinking back on my own childhood, I didn't have friends with allergies. Everyone has a deathly allergy now. You can't send your kid to school with nuts or anything because it's no nuts. There's so many kids with serious peanut food allergies in specific. And
where did it come from?
Where did that come from? It has to be something that we've done to ourselves for sure. So
okay, so nothing too complicated there, right? The only issue is, and this may sound insensitive, but that's me. The only issue is what you're doing is it doesn't allow you the convenience of just popping something in the microwave, peeling back some plastic and serving it, right? I mean, you actually have to go in and manipulate some food in order to present it to your kid. And that to me, from my perspective, that's really the only drawback, right? It's not, and I say that it's not really a drawback. I'm just saying all of the things that you're saying is just basically serve your kids real food, whole food.
What you eat. What you're eating.
What you eat.
Hopefully you're eating real food, and if you're not, you should.
Right. Sans the scotch. Don't include the scotch. Not because it's bad for the kids, but because why should you share? It's your scotch.
Share. That's your stuff.
So, but the point being, that's right. It's yours. Appreciate it. The point being, you're serving your kids real food. So just serve them real food and don't fret about it. So what's the next break point for kids and keto? When they're becoming independent and wanting to make their own food decisions, what happens next? Yeah.
So we started off, Desmond, awesome. We were super strict, but it also matters. I think it makes a huge difference that we eat that way. It's obviously extremely hypocritical for you to not be eating a certain way and trying to have your child eat a certain way. So number one step is modeling the behavior for them. You can't get your kid to eat keto if you're not keto, and I know, Brian, that's initially why you had started to show your son how this was possible, especially for him. It was so important for his health. So model the behavior that you want to see. They might not, this was a little bit hard for us because we did fall off the wagon for a while. But me and Danny had, so it kind of all, we all did, because that's what happened. So when me and Danny, in between paleo and keto, we did try the dreaded If It Fits Your Macros, which is just the worst, god awful thing on planet Earth.
Agreed.
Oh, it's pure misery. It's just pure misery.
So when you say if it fits your macros, were you eating grains? I mean, were you eating everything?
Yeah, you're eating everything because if it fits your macros, it's fine, right? So it's just a total lie. It's just false advertisement. And then, a calorie, even though calories do matter, but we know that a calorie is not just a calorie because of the way it works in our body. So, a certain amount of calories of pure carbs is not going to make me feel the same way as the same amount of calories in fat or protein. So, it did matter. We were always starving. You're eating your rice and chicken or egg whites, whatever horrible thing you're eating. And, and you're just thinking about your next meal already. You're just thinking about your next meal. You go to bed hungry almost every day. And if you don't, it's because you cheated, Right. And you're always waiting for the weekend and you're just doing this binge cycle where it's taking you until next Thursday to feel good. And then it's time to cheat again. So that's kind of where we were for a while. And then, with our philosophy of parenting, which is ever evolving and we're always learning, we kind of wanted it to come from them too. So we did let the kids, and it was just convenient, honestly. We totally just got sucked into the convenience of going through the drive-thru, shutting people up, and just seeing if they, like letting them make their own choices. And it totally doesn't work. Also, it's just like the marketing to children is a crime. So your kids are, even if you try, they're almost destined to fail. Like they're gonna get offered these things no matter what. So you might as well keep it good in the home, because someone's going to ruin it. Don't worry. They're going to get offered something.
I would like to petition that it's changed, that the terminology gets changed from if it fits your macros to if it gives you Alzheimer's. That should be. Oh, absolutely. I would like to change it to that so that.
Yeah. Never been more depressed for sure. Right. For sure. My brain never, so much brain fog.
So you guys went through that, but you sort of snapped out of it.
Yeah. So when we snapped out of it, we did it first. We didn't really change the kids that much out of convenience again, but it really does matter. And I think it was actually, well, they had just started like last KetoCon, and I had heard Dr. Lemansky talk about how he is seeing younger people in his practice. He can 20-year-olds with strokes. He could diagnose anyone with fibromyalgia.
Right.
And so it's, yes, we are seeing people that are younger and they're sicker than ever. And so it does matter. You can't just let them be kids, which they're really not even really able to be kids, because you can't be a kid when you feel like crap all the time. And so it just got really bad at one point. Desmond has horrible environmental allergies. He was bleeding out of his nose every 5 times a day, every single day throughout the season of allergies.
Wow.
Desmond had eczema. Dean had eczema and, his mood stuff. And they're just acting like crazy people. And so after we had been keto for, it had already been a year. So they had been watching us. And I always tell people to take the opportunity to, take some time to model the behavior first. They have to see your results first. And just take the opportunity to explain to them why you're doing what you do. So Desmond would offer me, hey, Mom, you want a bite of my cookie? And I would say, no, I don't eat that. And take that opportunity to explain to him why I don't eat that. So it affects my mood. I don't feel good. My gut doesn't feel good. And this isn't healthy for me. And I don't want to eat things that are bad for my body anymore.
Right.
And, it just gets them thinking, and so, one day out of nowhere after a trip, we had Desmond, we were like, dude, do you want to just do an experiment? Because he was already getting older and he was sick of his nosebleeds. He's sick of it. It's very nosebleeds. If anyone knows about environmental allergies and nosebleeds, it's just super annoying. It's so much blood. It's like a massacre every time. And it takes 30 minutes for it to stop. It's just honestly so annoying.
That was me as a kid too. Every day.
Horrible. And it's every day. And once it happens once, that's it. It's going to happen. It's going to keep going on. Keep happening. And, just hacking cough with the asthma, just literally dying at night. At night, it would wake me up, his cough, it would wake him up. He would hate it. He sounded like he had croup because of that asthma, nasty hacking cough. And he would have it all for 6 months straight throughout the season, especially here in Tampa. We have our weather. We have a lot of the pollen here is bad. He's got a mold allergy. The mold from the farmers picking the crops, it all just gets kicked up into the air. And, he was just he was in bad shape. So he was into it. And so Dean, at that point, he was how old was he? Maybe 2. So, 2.5 maybe. And he kind of just through association. I'm like, no, this is happening, because he's 2 and you're not, capable of understanding this. And so this is just how it has to be for now.
I want to stop you there. And I want to talk about this. As a parent who has ruined at least 3 children's lives, on purpose, I decided how I wanted them to have therapy. I gave them their neuroses. One of the things that bugs me a lot, and again, no judgment, but one of the things that bugs me tremendously is when I hear parents tell me how they can't feed their kids certain things, or or that they
won't eat it,
right, or something along those lines. And don't get me wrong, I have a picky eater as well. So the struggle is real. I understand it. However, my position is, if you buy the food, they're going to eat the food because that's what's available. At some point in time, a kid's going to get hungry enough to where they're going to eat the thing that's in front of them. I've been there. So, I'm just saying, that may sound like torture to some people, and okay, that may sound I fully admit I'm a terrible parent.
But you're offering them food. It's not like you're starving them.
Right.
Here's your food.
Here's the food.
They are choosing to not eat it.
Right,
and you know what? It's good for them to feel that hunger, because most kids don't even feel hunger anymore. They have no idea what that feels like.
Well, it's true. And that's a good thing that they don't feel hunger, but it's also good for them to feel empowered too, to make the decision. I don't want to eat. Okay. You don't want to eat. Now it'll be here when you're ready, but you're not going to get anything else. And that's not a cruelty thing. It's a simple matter of, look, you're responsible for the health of your kid. And if we know that feeding them crap is not good for their health, and we continue to do it, we have no excuse for the health of our kid, because we are a contributing factor. Kids are resilient, so you may not see it right away. But in a situation like you're discussing with your oldest, regular nosebleeds, that's not normal. So you know something's going on. So you've got to take it. You've got to do something. You've got to kind of like take the situation by the hand and make something happen. My situation, I'm dealing with a son who's got epilepsy, and I can't force him to eat. This is not the point, but I model it for him, and he sees the results and he makes his own decisions. I'm glad he did. He didn't have to. And if he didn't, lots of things would be lots of different at this point, but it is the way it is. But my point is, as a parent, if you buy the food, that's what they'll have to eat. So and I hear people talking about, I have to make 3 meals, one for me, one for my kids, and one for my spouse.
Yeah, no.
That, good on you. You're a better person than I am. Because I would say, here's what's for dinner. You don't like it. There's the kitchen. Feel free, have at it. Just clean the dishes when you're done. But I'm a terrible person, so that's just me. Anyway, I'll let you guys discuss this now. No,
but it's totally true. It was, and we were going through that as well. It's pretty much like a cognitive dissonance. Like I cannot know this information and continue to do this and spend my money, by the way, on this crap and contribute to this illness anymore. And we are the parent, and it is our responsibility to care for these children. So I don't think there's anything wrong with letting your kids starve themselves for a few days, and they will. But if it's something...
that was well phrased. That was well phrased, by the way.
They're going to starve themselves. I didn't starve you. Right. Here's your food. I didn't starve you by any means. The boys actually, they responded and kids do this. They respond so much quicker than us. They don't have keto flus. They don't have like all these weeks where they're feeling like crap. Desmond had like one little headache on day 2. And by day 3, he would tell me he was fasting. I'm like, no, you got to eat though. You can't just fast. You're a kid. Like you need to eat. So we're not fasting.
Right.
So, but yeah, there's the number one thing is literally throw everything away. Get it out of your house. Why do you have it in your house? There's no reason for you to have it in your house. You can simply just let your kids, if they're like, oh my gosh, what happened? Well, you used to get it for me before. Well, yes. Well, now I've made a choice to no longer contribute to this, and I'm not going to spend my money on this food. You're free to earn your own money and go buy whatever you want, which obviously it's not going to happen. And even then, like, they still make pretty good choices when I give them a little of a, something I do to like kind of empower them as well. And I tell friends this that are always asking me for advice with the kids is when you go to the grocery store, I give them like $5 or $10 that they can choose, what to get, obviously. And the funny thing is that even though I don't give them any rules, they still choose pretty good choices. And that's because I feel like they almost like don't want to ruin that.
Right.
And they want to make, that's it. Once they're in charge, it's different. It's just like, so, and obviously they know that I'm not gonna, I'm like, make good choices though. Don't come back here with Sour Patch. It's just not gonna happen. So make good choices. They might grab like a dark chocolate bar, some yogurt, and like an apple. I'm like, okay, whatever, fine. But they make decent choices. So, but yeah, you got to get it out of the house. They can't have options. They're not going to ever eat anything if they have these options.
And you'd be surprised how quick a kid can adjust, right?
So quick.
I mean, you think that it's never going to happen, but the truth of the matter is, if those are the only options they've got, they're gonna adjust, and it's entirely possible that they may start liking real food, as opposed to the processed.
No, they absolutely will. This is proven over and over. That, we become desensitized. I mean, even the commercials, like if you look at a Doritos commercial, it's like flavor punch, like, and that's what it tastes like. I feel like I literally pictured these people in lab coats connecting to someone's brain and making them taste things and being like, oh yeah, there's the reaction. We want that reaction. Right. Let's sell this. Let's sell this. It's just all these fake flavors. They're so intense. Of course, your kids, you got to recalibrate their palate. And after a while, their taste buds will change. And all of a sudden, they're going to be trying foods and eating foods that they never ate before. Desmond eventually stopped eating avocados because he's, why would he eat avocados if he has French fries? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but now he's back to eating avocados because now he can taste them again, pretty much. It's like you can't taste it. Like, so you've got to, it's so important. Like, you just look around. Like, I can't even buy Desmond shorts without the waistband being so enormous. And I'm just like, who are these made for? Right. Oh, American children. That's who they're made for. Right. Because it's just like all these kids are overweight. Every single kid that I see almost is overweight.
One of the things that I'm finding interesting is this idea that your child's flavor, the palate, is developed by the food choices you make when your baby's in utero. It's augmented by your food choices as you're breastfeeding. And then at some point in time, they are trying to experience the world on their own. And if up to this point, they've had a variety of flavor choices and options, they're going to want to continue that variety of flavor of food choices and options. So it just makes sense. So anything that overrides that with, like pure sugar, that is going to override all the flavor sensations. So not having that as an option is probably a good thing. I'm sorry, Carrie, you were going to say something and I interrupted.
I was just going to say, so is it true to say then that, people are going to want to know, okay, so what do you feed them? And your answer is going to be, they eat what Danny and I eat.
Yes and no, but only because Danny and I are super strict these days with our meats and stuff. I do give them a bigger variety. They're just kids.
Would it be fair to say that you feed them whatever they want within a certain parameter?
Right, like keto foods, right. Or like I always say, like we'll cheat paleo. You know what I mean? Like and like as in like, okay, maybe you're gonna get like half a sweet potato today because you did 2 hours of martial arts and you swam at the pool all day. Right. You better earn that half sweet potato. Like it's not gonna just be given to you for free. So but yeah, pretty much. Okay. So at first, when we first started the kids off, we did offer them a lot of keto versions of their favorite food because you got to show them that they're still kids. You don't want them to feel deprived. You don't want them to build a resentment or a bad relationship around food so early. That was like our biggest fear with controlling their food. That was my biggest fear. I didn't want them to like grow up one day and be like, I'm going to just go eat donuts all day. Like I wanted them to really understand why. And so I'm always explaining why, food is fuel. We don't, it makes our body strong. We have to fuel our brain so that it doesn't literally deteriorate over time because that's exactly what's happening. And we have to, eat foods that like us, not foods that we like, but it's nice because you end up liking these foods. It's not like I'm eating food that I hate. Like I love steak and fish but we did make them like, fathead pizza. There's so many. And now we have so many recipes with online. There's just like, there's a way. You're having a cinnamon roll craving. There's a way. Keto cinnamon roll.
One thing I've found to be true is if you, the sooner you start including your kids in the production of the food, like Absolutely. You get them in the kitchen, helping you with the concoction of the meals, the sooner they start to really take seriously what it is that they're eating. And the sooner
I totally agree.
Yeah. So that kind of next step is get them in the kitchen, teach them how to, chop some stuff or teach them how to grate some stuff, or add it to them, explain why you're doing things so they understand how flavors work. But you're still working with whole foods. And now they've fully invested in their food stuff. And you'd be surprised how quickly, like we taught our kids to cook really early. Yeah, really we did young. Too. And I mean, because we're lazy. I mean, that's why. I mean, that's my motivation is because I didn't want to do it. So I taught them how to do it. And they were like,
but it's better for them. They're more independent.
Exactly. They're like, hey, I'm hungry. I'm like, you know how to make your food. So.
Oh yeah, Desmond can make himself eggs. It's great.
Right. It makes things easier.
I totally agree with that. They are so much more willing to try food that they helped make. So definitely get them involved in the kitchen. Get them, make it fun for them. We do a lot of, we do Carrie Brown ice cream for them. We love Carrie Brown ice cream, and they love it. They ask for it.
And actually, Dean's favorite flavor Sassy Goat.
He loves Sassy Goat. Yeah, Dean is really.
And he's 4, right?
Yeah, he just turned 4. And it's funny because he tends to be a little pickier but only in the sense that he kind of keeps to like the same types of foods. But he actually surprises me with like things like that, where he'll like the goat cheese ice cream, and like he likes those like rich, flavors that are well developed like that. And just getting them involved, they love it. Yeah, Dean loves Sassy Goat. We love the hazelnut, of course, so good. We've made so many, and so that there's just so many options that there's just no need to turn to that. Yes, it's going to take more time. You have to make it. You can't just go to the store and grab it, but then you get to be in the kitchen with them. You get to involve them in the process, and you're just giving them so much more than just food. You're giving them,
an experience.
You're showing them that they can make these foods, and it's super fun for them. They both love it. Dean every single morning makes me put him on the counter to help make the eggs. Every single morning, he loves to sit there with me, and it's just become a nice time for us, and he eats butter, Kerrygold butter, like by the tablespoon as I'm making the eggs. He's like, gimme, like right. He'll eat straight Kerrygold butter. And really, it's just amazing to watch this happen and in your kids. And I truly believe that it could be this way for all kids. I don't believe people when they tell me their kids are picky. I'm like, yeah, they're picky because of what they eat. They're not truly picky. There's no picky eaters in third world countries. Your child's just not hungry. You've never allowed them to become hungry and really experience real food. You're just giving them these empty calories, just empty carbs. It's just doing all this crazy stuff to their adrenaline system, to their brain. And it's literally an addiction. It's just like such, and I can even see it. My kids are still kids. So, there's been times where we go to a birthday party and, Desmond's older, so he'll make a better choice. But Dean is, he doesn't understand like that's not a keto cake or whatever. Even if I tell him, he's like, yeah, but I don't care. It tastes good. And then they'll feel like crap. And that's
you want
kind
that.
of the goal.
Yeah,
that's kind of the goal in a way. I hate to say it, but that's kind of my goal. And I'm happy about that because your kid, when they're eating sugar all the time, they don't necessarily feel so sick. It's more of like just a low level of inflammation. So they might have eczema and they have other stuff like autoimmune issues that they'll express that sensitivity with. But man, my kids, like, the other day, Dean had like 2 Quest bars or something. And then he was like on the toilet and I took the time to let him know why. I'm like, that's the Quest bars. That's bottom line. Yeah. Those are the Quest bars. It does it to me too. It does it to me too. And he goes, oh, the bars. He understands. I'm like, yeah, the bars.
Well, I try to make sure that I really, really emphasize I'm happy that they're miserable. And I'm not joking when I say that. Like whenever Noah, whenever Noah would cheat and he would be like, oh, I don't feel so good. I'm like, good. That's awesome. I'm glad you don't feel good. Remember that. Remember that. Next time.
How you feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Enough of my horrible parenting. We are going to run out of time. How do we want to? Where do we want to go next?
Where do we want to go next?
Carrie,
where do you want to go?
This is your train. You're the conductor. Do they have trains in Jolly Old England?
We're very good at trains.
Oh, okay. It's not very far. I can't imagine like, wait, do they just constantly just go over the edge and they're just like going into the ocean or the sea?
No, and actually England is famous for trains not going anywhere because leaves on the track or, there's lots of weather things. And yeah, trains are notorious for not going at all or not going very far.
The most famous British train that I know of isn't even in Britain. It's the Orient Express. And that's because it was written by a British lady. Which, by the way, has anyone seen the Kenneth Branagh version, the latest version with Johnny Depp as the bad guy in it?
No, I want to though. I haven't seen it.
Really good. Really good. But then it's Kenneth Branagh. He's always really good. I've completely changed the subject. Sorry.
But the tube is awesome.
Well, of course. That's the subway for people who don't know. The tube. Not toothpaste. We're not talking toothpaste. Yeah. Toothpaste in Britain, totally good. We're not saying it's bad. I'm just saying you wouldn't call it a tube of toothpaste because that would be a subway of toothpaste and nobody would know what you were talking about. And they would laugh you out of England into France where you belong. Sorry.
And there's no leaves in the tube.
No, because
so the trains tend to run.
Trees don't grow underground usually.
Right. Except the lines where they have an overground bit on the underground.
Right. Which that's British engineering.
Yeah.
All right. So where do we want to pause it there or do we want to say that we covered it? What do we want to do?
I think that was awesome.
Okay.
I was fascinated, and I'm not even ever planning on having children.
I was going to suggest that maybe this is like incentive, and like all of a sudden you're going to like I should have a kid now. No,
that just reminded me. So Adam was here today, and he was doing painting things in the kitchen, and he got here this morning, and we always have a little conversation. And I remembered, and I don't remember what the thing was now, but I suddenly went, oh, something really, really scary, or something happened. And he looked at me and said, "You're getting married?" And I was just like,
like, never,
no, never.
Right, so
how dare you insult me?
Right. So now Adam's in the ER with a knife in his chest, right? Just for merely suggesting.
She buried him. She buried him up back.
So Adam's done. So long story short, I need a new contractor. And yeah. There we go. Yeah.
So that just reminded me of so in the one day, in the space of 10 hours, people have suggested that 1, I'm getting married, and 2, I'm having a kid. So I need to recalibrate or something.
No, what you need to do is
I'm giving off the wrong vibes here.
Yeah, no. You're like, you guys are not.
What you need to do is you need to say only 50% of those things are true, and then leave it at that, and then and then
make them wonder.
Yeah. Which 50%. All right. Well, hey, Maura, thanks so much for coming on.
Absolutely, guys.
It's a question we get asked in various forums all the time. Parents are really intrigued. The bottom line is, if it's good for you, it's good for your kid, assuming no medical issues, right? If it's good for you, it's good for your kids.
Of course.
There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, people always ask me that for some reason. They're like, "Is this good for my kids?" I'm like, "Are they human? Like, are they different than you?"
That's such a great question, though.
Why wouldn't it be good? Like, why wouldn't it be good for your kids?
If you ask, are they human? Like, that's not a tongue.
I literally ask that. I go, are they human?
I really want to know, are these kids one day they're going to be like, well, no, and you're like, tell me more.
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe it's like an X-Men situation. Like maybe
I gave birth to an owl.
I don't know.
I really need to know.
I really need to know if this is, the safest. So, and people ask that too. Like, is it safe? And
no, I'm really.
Babies are actually born in ketosis.
I really want to kill your kids, so that's why I'm saying do this. Yes. So, yes, all sarcasm aside, if it's good for you, chances are it's going to be good for your kids. If it's bad, okay. The converse is if it's bad for you, if it made you sick, sad, dumb, and miserable.
Exactly. Why are you giving it to your kids?
Why would you want that for your kids?
Yeah. So really, it's pretty much the best favor you ever did them by just having them starve themselves for 2 days. It honestly doesn't take that long. Someone asked me, how long does it take? I said 3 days.
Yeah.
I said it took 3 to 4 days.
They'll come around. Yeah.
That's how long it took in that movie, The Magic Pill, with that little autistic girl. Yeah. And she's autistic, and those are really picky children.
Yep.
And it was 3 or 4 days, and then she was feeding herself and all this stuff. So
I have a theory, and I probably should shut up because I don't have children. But I have a theory that children will not let themselves starve. I think
they're not going to starve.
We have an inbuilt, I can't think of the word, but it's
like survival.
We will survive. We have a survival instinct, and children will not starve. If we get hungry enough, we're going to eat.
Yeah, you're going to eat, period.
And that's my theory on it all.
Yeah. And I've heard someone else say, if you're not hungry for meat, you're not hungry. You need to eat, your proteins. It's so important.
Right.
And yeah, but anyways, just keep it fun for the kids. And if anyone's interested, we put all the kids' meals and stuff, on Fat Fueled Kids on Instagram. I know lunches can be tough, but you just got to get creative. And there's a lot of we're lucky that we live in the time that we do now, because there's so many new brands that are coming out that are making our lives so convenient. I sent Desmond off to camp with Peterson Farms bacon, jerky, chicken, Bunker Hill cheese crisps with cream cheese, and then a little bar so that he didn't feel left out, a Primal Kitchen bar, Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and I tell him, I'm like, if this lunchbox comes back and all you ate was that bar, you're not going to have one tomorrow. Just know that, You know what I mean?
Right.
So just show me that you're going to eat your real food first, and then that's your treat so that you don't feel left out, when your kids, when your friends are eating cookies and all that.
We'll link Maura's the Fat Fuel Kids Instagram so that you can go and peruse their actual meals that they eat. So that will give you some ideas. But I think the bottom line is that they pretty much eat what Danny and Maura eat, and then Maura tosses in some Carrie Brown Sassy Goat ice cream and other flavors so they feel normal.
Exactly.
And that's how they do it.
Yeah, you can still enjoy that. Your kids can still be kids, without all the bad side effects.
All right, there you go. I guess that'll do it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I got nothing else.
You guys.
I guess,
so fun.
Maura, thanks. Carrie, I guess I'll talk to you next week.
All right.
All right.
All right, that'll do it for another trip to the kitchen. If you have kids, if you want kids, don't take kids. I was going to say something, but don't take kids. Get your own kids. Don't take someone else's kids. That's just wrong. That's bad advice all the way around. Feed them right. If it's good for you, it's good for them. Just take it. Take that advice. You can follow Carrie Brown. She is the real Carrie Brown on the Instagrams. And you can follow me, but why would you? I'm KETOVangelist. And you can see our Facebook group, KETOVangelist Kitchen. It's on Facebook. That's why it's called a Facebook group. So thanks again to Maura for coming on the show and sharing the knowledge. Until next time, keep being awesome. Powered by ketones.